Welcome to the Axe Life podcast. This is the Pro-Am episode edition, if you will. We've got some really exciting stuff to talk about today. We're going to be focusing mainly on Pro-Am. That's the talk of the axe throwing world, if you're a World Axe Throwing League or WATL thrower. And I've got a great guest today. The topics that we're going to be covering today are going to be the Pro-Am experience, being in Appleton, Wisconsin. We're going to talk about World Championship bid projections, as you know, this season, the fall season has concluded, and some of those last bids wound up coming in. And then, of course, we're going to talk, to the champ, Erik Rimblas, who wound up winning the Pro-Am Amateur Championship. And kind of talk through that experience. And then, of course, we've got another spicy topic for in the comments section, which is, of course, Pro-Am related. But first, what I want to talk to you guys about is our benefactor, which is the Axe Life Gear. AxeLifeGear.com is our sponsor for this podcast. If you're looking for any great axe throwing merch, gear, you've got everything from stickers to cool t-shirts with awesome designs, a lot of which a lot of people are walking around with. And when I walk around in an Axe Life Gear shirt, I get a lot of people that ask me, where to get it. And it's affordable, fast shipping. You can get everything from cool tumblers to koozies. Check out this Christmas ornament right here. Who doesn't have their axe ornament hanging on their tree yet? You gotta check it out at AxeLifeGear.com, and we thank them very much. These sunglasses that are on the screen, the bamboo look sunglasses, so far my favorite item. I wear them around. I don't know why I haven't lost them yet. I usually sit on them, break them, or lose them. But for some odd reason, this pair of sunglasses is really stuck around with me. So they might be magic. Who knows? So check out AxeLifeGear.com and check out all the merch. They're great for gifts and for that axe thrower or special someone in your life. What I want to do, since I'm rocking this Pro-Am episode solo, I am doing the talking and the producing all at the same time, and I'm feeling rather lonely right now. I want to bring on a virtual co-host, which I've already teased in the beginning of the episode. I would like to get Erik Rimblas on the line. Erik Rimblas is a axe thrower. He throws out of the Axe Throwing Society out of Pompano Beach, Florida, and throws out of the Axe Throwing Society of Pompano Beach, Florida. He is been just climbing the charts since the beginning of the year when it comes to stats and tournament performances. So let's give a big round of applause and a warm welcome to Erik Rimblas. Hello, Erik.
Hey, Vinnie, how are you, bud?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am good. Relaxing on a wonderful long holiday weekend.
Oh, that's fantastic. So did you get a little time to do some turkey and all that stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. No, we do a big family thing here for our Thanksgiving down here in South Florida. And then yesterday I actually had a Friendsgiving with some friends that live up a little further north. So I've had back-to-back Thanksgivings. No Thanksgiving today, but two in a row, so not bad.
Thank goodness the athletic prowess required in the sport of our choice isn't, the more bloated the better is what I say, So we went with the ham and the macaroni and cheese and stuff, and I'm feeling a little bloated, but that's another podcast for a different time. So Erik, we were at the Pro-Am together. For those that haven't seen all the posts, spoiler alert, it wound up coming down to Erik and I in the finals. And, when the finals concluded, my girlfriend was like, how you feeling about that? And I was like, it was to Erik, I feel fine. You know what I mean? So since we've had an opportunity to throw in a lot of different Atlantic region tournaments together, and it was just an absolute pleasure. I knew going into this thing that it could have been me and you at the end. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, you and I talked about it before when we were getting ready before the taping of that our part of the tournament. I was really happy that it was you and I. I was hoping that it was going to be you and I. We had spoken just a few weeks earlier, before the tournament in St. Pete, and had caught up recently, and I remember looking through the lists, and there are a small handful of folks on there that I really wanted to face at some level, and knowing that we were pretty high seated, I knew that it wasn't going to be in the tournament itself, so it needed to be in the finals, and I'm just glad that it happened. I think maybe we manifested it, and I was just happy that it was you and I, because we've thrown together before, and we get along really well. We represented our region,
Yeah, we
so
did.
that was really good that was the case as well, and just was just happy that it was you and me at the end there, bud. So.
Me too. Me too. So let's back it up and talk about the the whole Appleton experience, if you will. So some people had a little bit of travel troubles getting up there. I was grateful that I wound up flying into Chicago. Saw my family, hung out, had some great Portillos, and got my Italian S cookies and all that kind of stuff for my coffee, and got to hang out with the family. And I drove up to Appleton from Chicago, but a lot of people were trying to catch flights into Appleton from Chicago, from Milwaukee, and there were flight delays and stuff like that. Did you experience anything like that?
No, honestly, I had a smooth time. Everything was pretty much on time. I mean, I did fly into Chicago, and then took the flight from Chicago over to Appleton with a whole bunch of axe throwers on my connection. The
Yeah.
short flight over.
They
Mario
serve
was
PBR on the flight.
well, pretty short flight, but yeah, that would have been appropriate. No travel troubles. I flew in early enough on Thursday that I volunteered to judge for the pro tournament, which was fun. I'd never done that before, but no travel issues. I did hear about some folks that had some unfortunate travel issues, but that's just the nature of flying into the cold areas of the country this time of the year. So.
Sure, sure. And so then once we get in, we kind of scope out the arena and the venue, if you will, at the convention center in Appleton, and you're kind of preparing. Mentally prepare yourself for. I got in on, drove up there on Thursday, so the amateur tournament was on Friday, at least the prelims, and so it was between 52 and 54 throwers, I think, per bracket, four brackets. I was in bracket one. You were in bracket
Four. Yeah, I
four.
was in the fourth bracket. Yeah,
Okay,
last.
so and you scope out your brackets before you go, find out who's who in the zoo, who is there that you're like, yeah, I hope I don't have to face that one. Who were those? Go ahead and name drop. Who were the people that you're like,
Yeah.
this is a solid thrower, and hopefully it's really late when I have to meet them in the tournament.
Yeah,
Who is
yeah,
on
absolutely.
your list?
We all do the same thing, and some of the most solid throwers in our bracket ended up people that I had not met before. But Berger Lacey was in our bracket,
Oh yeah,
and he's a phenomenal thrower, great guy. I've thrown with him a number of
great
times,
guy.
and we had he won the amateur tournament at PLS in Virginia Beach at Tribal Axe earlier this year. I placed fourth in that tournament, and so right off the bat, there was already an amateur tournament that Berger had won.
Mm.
Against some pretty stiff competition. So when I saw his name in our bracket, that was a thing. Ashlyn Christmas was in our bracket, and she's a phenomenal thrower. Paul
Top thrower.
Strobus, who's one of our throwers, was in our bracket, and he's beaten me before, in our tournaments, league tournaments. So yeah, and then again, there was just a number of names, people that I had never thrown with before, or even heard of in some cases, that ended up being phenomenal throwers and were really tough tests. So yeah, it was, I looked through the list, and fortunately I did it early enough that I got a chance to kind of digest it and prepare. But yeah, there were some really great throwers in all four brackets. But yeah, probably Burger and Ashton for me were the biggies. So
Right on. And so, did you wind up? How did you wind up getting knocked to the B bracket at any point?
yeah, no, I think you and I had the same journey. I won. I think it was three matches in A, and then might have been four, and then I lost to Ted Cook,
Mm.
who is a great thrower, also in our region,
Yeah.
and he took me out in three games, and just hit shots when he needed to hit shots, right? Throws. I ended up facing him again in B, obviously, but yeah, no, I think you and I took a similar path. I mean, I lost kind of midway through A, and then had to battle my way back through B, and faced Ted again, and then a handful of other folks to get to the finals. So,
Okay. And who was your finals for your bracket?
ooh, okay, so his name, pronouncing his name would be difficult. So he's from Canada, great thrower. I want to say it's Steppen.
Sure. Yeah, I
Um,
remember seeing that. Yeah, and I understand why there's
yeah,
difficulty with the name. Yeah.
yeah. He great thrower. We obviously had to beat him twice, two out of threes,
Hmm.
and I think it was five overall games, so it was pretty lengthy. And yeah, he went undefeated in A, and then we faced each other in the finals there, and I was fortunate enough to squeak through. So
Well, excellent performance. Yeah, I wound up. I think I had 3 or 4 matches. I was still in the A bracket, uh, and one of those matches was Leslie Wellman, and now I've never thrown against Leslie in like head to head. I think I had a duels match against her, maybe at Capital City, but I had never like just thrown against her one on one. And so you have a tendency to go and see the match prior to yours. Oh, I got to play the winner of this one, and I'm watching this like kind of two fingered, over the head throw, and 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 then all of a sudden my stomach dropped every time she would just fire this thing off. It was just dropping right in that bullseye and then hitting her kill shots. I was like, holy cow. So, and my experience with her was maybe one of the toughest matches of the series. I mean, because she was on. I had been sitting for a while. No excuses, no excuses. But I've been sitting for a while, and I think I slipped a four and maybe a couple fives. She was up by three, and I called a kill on 8 and 9 and hit them, and then hit my 6 on 10, and it tied it up because she slipped a five in the 10th throw, and then we went to who sucks less, and it went to like 3 or 4 rounds of who sucks less. And now I was nice and warmed up for the next match or the next game, and I got to move on. But then what's his name? Tommy, another Italian, another fellow Italian,
Antonello, yeah,
Antonello. Tommy
yeah.
Antonello took it to me, man, and so he knocked me into B, and he gave me the opportunity. He was like, asked 9 and 10, and I was like, let's go throw by throw, and I missed my kill shot, and he hit his, and he goes, I'm going to stay down now. I was like, yeah, that's what giving up 9 and 10 means. You get to stay down and win this one. And then, so he knocked me down to B bracket. And then it adds like multiple more matches in your journey to the top.
Mhm.
So, to include Frank Cochran, he was on a roll. He was like on a five game, like just annihilation streak. And anyway, so we wound up meeting each other again, just like you did, and I took the next round, and then I wound up having to face Austin Shepard in the A finals. Dude, Austin was throwing his face off for that entire day. He was just on it. I mean, he was on his bulls, he was on his kills, and Austin and I have a history at tournaments, and I don't know if that got in his head a little bit that we kind of grew up, if you will, at the same time in axe throwing, and we've been following each other's careers, and we go back and forth. And yeah, it was. I had to take him twice, and it just worked out in my favor. But if we did it again, not so sure about that outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm really, really happy for Austin. He's so committed to the sport, period, with
Yes.
Hatchets for Heroes. It's a family affair for them.
Yes.
His wife, his kids, he's super committed. And, he was so excited, and he has so many friends, and, people were over in our room, just, going running back over there, while because it was the end of those brackets and the beginning of our brackets. And people that wanted to watch me throw were running over there watching Austin throw, and I'm like, yeah, go watch. I mean, that's like phenomenal,
Yeah.
for him to go that far, and yeah, he was stoked. I mean, talk about somebody who's grateful and deserving. He was absolutely stoked, and then he lost, and he turned around and was happy for both of us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Jacob and I. He transitioned to being our biggest fans, and which is just a credit to who he is, right? But
yeah.
yeah, I'm really happy for him, and he's definitely coming up and throwing. He's getting better and better as he continues to focus on it. So.
Yeah, this is what Austin sent me home with. I actually lugged it in my bag. He made this sign for the ESPN finals, and yeah, it's Austin.
Absolutely.
Just a great energy he provides to the sport. His Hatchets for Heroes. If we have other throwers listening, definitely whenever you see Hatchets for Heroes at an event, support them. They have cool merch. His wife Alicia makes it all herself. Like, she learned how to do all of that.
Wow,
so she, everything from the tumblers to the shirts, and it's all pushed right back into the cause. And their cause, what they do is they give first responders and military veterans financial support to attend tournaments, purchase equipment, or give away worthy veterans with axe donations and things like that. And it's just making the sport better. So shout out to Austin. Thank you so much for what you do. Yeah, we love you, man. Thank you, and thank you for the support that you've lent both Erik and I, during those finals. So, did you happen to see that Atlantic region, F around and find out video that was circulating?
I did. I gotta say that was it was. I mean, it was funny, and I was kind of proud of it too.
Me too.
I mean, it's not that I feel that the Atlantic region or the state of Florida or Southeast doesn't get any credit, because I don't think that's the way. Our sport is really not geographically centered or oriented per se. But we have a lot of really great up and coming throwers in the Southeast and in the Atlantic region, and it was cool to see a little bit of swagger, getting out there, about our area. So it was great. Again, just we have so many folks in our area that are really, really passionate about axe throwing and our particular area, and the friendships we have and the venues we have. And, they took their talents and created something really cool that got circulated around, which I thought was pretty neat. So
I don't think that people have the perception that our region doesn't see the love or anything, but it just so happens that we've got throwers in our region that are gonna, they're just gonna surprise people later on. That's what I'll say. You've got throwers like Brian Cox, that sometimes when you show up at a tournament, Brian's there, and he goes to whatever dimension he goes to when he steps to the line. The biggest names in axe throwing, if you will. Good luck. Good luck, Brian. When Brian's on. And I think we're going to hear some of these Atlantic region names. I love supporting a thing. I like being on a team, if you will. And if our team is the Atlantic region, well, heck, I'm going to represent or rep that region and root for my Atlantic throwers because, well, we all hang out at these tournaments together. So
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I love being part. A big part of this is the community, and obviously there's the overall community, but every community has subsets, and one of our subsets is the Atlantic region, and it's getting tighter and tighter. And you're right, we have people like Brian and Adam Fortner and John
mhm.
Merida and Eagle Eye Strasburg. I
Yeah,
mean, Dalton over there in Orlando. I mean, we have phenomenal throwers in our region that can compete with anybody. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Worlds in that regard because not only will our region be extremely well represented, but I mean, if I'd put our region up against any region, to take the whole thing, no
yeah,
question. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but
sure.
yeah, it's we're definitely coming on up. So
You know who I was excited to see doing well at the tournament and kind of also representing the Atlantic region, and I got to just give them a shout out is the Epic Misfits, Troy Goss and Keith. They were I didn't know that. Let's see, it was the turkey, the gobble waddle tournament at Armadillo Axe Throwing. It was Keith Kimball's first tournament there, and I mean he took fourth, but with a spectacular performance. Troy just wound up having some tough matches, but he was throwing great. And these two, they run. If you haven't checked out the Epic Misfits podcast, they there's two guys sitting on a couch talking about axe throwing. I like their takes on a lot of things. I love their support anytime that they come to a tournament because they bring the funny, they bring the real good energy. And Troy was very good to me at the Pro-Am. He served as both Sean Daniels, who throws out of Blackwater Axes and Ales, and Troy Goss. They served as my sparring partners, going over and preparing for the days to come, if you will, at Appleton Axe. So we just put some matches together and prepared specifically those kill shots and trying to hit those kill shots and getting those dialed in. But so shout out to Troy and Keith at Epic Misfits and Sean Daniels for serving as my sparring partners. Although I'm talking to the champ right now, so maybe they should have done better, Oh, all right. So those were the days. That was the preliminary tournament that Friday, and then on Saturday were skills. So skills were the entire agenda for the day. So those that had thrown amateur hatchet on, well, the pros threw amateur hatchet on Thursday. So their bracket was complete on Thursday. Let's talk about the pros for a second. So kind of surprising, to be honest with you.
yeah. I mean, the big names. None of the big names made it to the final two,
Right.
and which I think that's the first time that I've seen that happen. I'm not sure if it's the first time it's ever happened, but certainly in one of the big events for some number of years, it's the first time you haven't had one of those top 5 or 6 guys, at least, if not all, both of them, both spots being occupied by one of those folks. But, it was a really interesting pro tournament in that it wasn't the top 96 pros. The way they selected that group was based on, major tournament performance over the course of the year. So there were a number of pros that weren't there, because they didn't do well in some of those majors this year. So there was a handful of folks that weren't there. But yeah, I mean, those guys, they threw their tails off and ended up in the finals and worthy of being there. I didn't get to see, Joe's matches at all, but I did get to watch, the finals, with Lucas. And again, I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm not even going to try, but the young gentleman that ended up winning it all. And I mean, he threw against Lucas, match of a lifetime.
Is it
And
Jalianek?
yeah,
Is that his
right.
last name?
he was on fire. I mean,
Yep.
I talked to him a little bit during the practices, in the practice room that we all had. I actually threw a game against him. He beat me by, a couple points, 63-61, I think, in just a quick practice match. And he was practicing all day. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but he didn't leave that practice room almost at all. He was throwing almost the entire day up until his matches with Joe. But anyway, yeah, it was an interesting turn of events to not see, the big names, up there, throwing for those, for the championship. But again, those guys threw their tail off and they earned it. So
Absolutely. Um, the the big names, though. I mean, I suppose what we're talking. So the pros that went there, and congratulations to both Joe Devine and Chalianek. I think that's how
yeah,
you pronounce.
probably close.
Look, my name gets butchered all the time, so you know, sorry. I enjoyed talking to him as well, and he's a young thrower, but just dialed in and a super nice guy. So I enjoyed watching his method. You were right. He did practice it a lot. The proof is in the pudding. The results really showed out themselves. I think if I threw that long, my old arms would get tired and whatnot. Maybe I even spent a little bit too much time in that practice room, but that's fine. The big names that you're talking about, so we're talking, Lucas Johnson, Tyler Flynn. They had other roles within the Pro-Am, doing very well in their respective categories in the skills and some of the modified duels competitions that were put on. So, did you throw in skills?
I did throwing skills and with Jeff Schick and Brent Killens, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and we did okay. I'm not a knife thrower. I had started throwing knives earlier this year, and to be honest, when the Pro-Am qualification came through, I kind of dropped pretty much everything. And I mean I finished my big axe leagues, but I really focused on hatchet and knives for sure went by the wayside. I'm not a particularly good knife thrower, and so that I was a bit of a hindrance. I didn't compete in any of the other things, no twisted duels or regular knives or knife duels, just skills. We did our best of the four games. Our best was the relay. Did pretty
Relay
darn
was
well in the
cool.
relay. I think we went 5-2 in the relay. I think we finished somewhere like 15th overall, or somewhere in some range like that. Our trio.
So,
But
describe what relay is.
yeah, so relay is a series of games, or you throw the different disciplines. So you start off two teams of three, and you both start off throwing the same discipline, which is just regular 12-foot hatchet. And then whoever has the best points after the three throws, all the axes stay in the board. That team moves on to the next discipline, and that next discipline is 10-foot knives. The team that did not win that first part of the relay stays in hatchet until they score better than the other team in the other discipline, and you work through five disciplines. I want to say it was regular hatchet, 10-foot knives, big axe, 1.5 hatchet, and then two rotation knives. And so I think those are the five steps in that order, and we did pretty well. We did pretty well on that. The other ones not so much, but we did pretty well on the relay. So
Oh, right on. Yeah. So they featured all the different skills. Um, we're not gonna beat the horse about the execution of the actual skills days. It was the length of time it took to play those games was kind of underestimated, and so therefore the day was long, very long day. Meaning
yeah,
like almost a 24-hour day. So
yeah. Not
um,
started at 9 and ended at some time in the morning. I mean, it was just crazy.
Sure. So, but nonetheless, some there was feedback on those games. Some people really liked certain games. I think some games will stay as a feature in future events, and some are likely going to go by the wayside, I would imagine. So the ones I heard the best feedback about were people liked watching relay, and they liked watching the ladder climb knives. What was that one called?
That was the Toro takedown.
Yeah, Toro takedown. So I think those are the two that a lot of people like. Although it was fun to watch, people just, you know, going ham and just raking those knives in some cases. But fun to watch, and it was an interesting take on the precision throwing sports, if you will. So don't hate that. I didn't take part in those because I don't particularly care for knives. I don't care at all for 1.5 rotation anything. And to be honest with you, I was using Pro-Am as an opportunity to hang out with my family in Chicago. So I was planning on cruising up, throwing the best I could on Friday. And if things didn't work out, cruising back down, hanging out with the fam in Chicago, and then leaving out of Chicago. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm happy that I got to stick around. And then I started getting, kind of FOMO, the missing out during skills. And then when I found out that it went till 4 in the morning, I was like, never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it was fun. I will tell you, it was fun. And when I don't know about you, but for me, particularly these last kind of 4 or 5 months, or whenever it was that we found out we were going to the AM and started working towards that end. The hatchet took on a very work serious like approach for me, and it was really refreshing just to throw stuff for fun.
sure.
And yeah, our team, Brent, Jeff, we wanted to win, but we also talked about it at the very beginning that at the end of the day, this was for fun, and it was really just fun to just throw stuff just for fun. I mean,
Yeah.
we all got into this at some point, throwing sharp stuff, and because it was cool. And that day was quite a bit of fun. Yeah, it went pretty long. It went pretty long, and you did a lot of waiting around. But end of the day,
You got
you're
your
ready to
money's
run.
worth. You
Yeah,
got your
you're
money's
ready.
worth in lumber.
Yeah, it
So,
was
all right, and then we get to Sunday, which is the ESPN day. They threw skills kind of first. It's probably not going to appear this way on ESPN. It was all thrown in kind of a different order. This is the first time that they're editing the ESPN episode, if you will. And so they threw the skills. They were fun to watch. The energy in the ESPN venue room was really cool. The set was beautiful. There was lots of bells and whistles, cool lights, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Cool lights, and they even had like fog and cryo and stuff like that. And and now it's Sunday, and so going into Sunday morning, knowing you're going to be on ESPN, and that you're expected to perform at a certain level and represent. What was your pressure feeling like when you woke up on Sunday morning?
Yeah, well, listen, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I was just plain Jane nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal for the event was to get to ESPN. So from a certain point of view, I'd already achieved my goal. But then you get there and you're like, well, heck, I want to try and win the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thought I had, first thing when I woke up, because frankly, the night before, and even the night before that, the Friday night, when we finished Hatchet, it was just like, all right, great, goal achieved. The rest from here on out's gravy. Just enjoy the experience. But then when I woke up Sunday morning, it was like, well, why not go out and try and win this thing? And so then it was kind of shifting of a mindset for me was from, hey, just happy to be there, to like, all right, get back into that competitive mindset and start focusing on my routines to before any tournament. And fortunately, I've thrown in a lot of tournaments. I mean, I threw in tournaments the 2 weekends prior to going to Wisconsin on purpose. I threw in our tournament in Pompano. I threw in the tournament in St. Pete as warm-ups, to the
That's a good
Pro-Am.
idea.
That was the Pro-Am was my third weekend in a row throwing in tournaments, by the time I got there. And, that tournament experience and just going through that process, that's what I did. So I didn't expect to do that Sunday morning when I woke up. I didn't expect to do it Saturday night when I went to sleep. I was just like, all right, enjoy it. You're going to get to be on TV. All that stuff's great. When I woke up Sunday morning, I woke up that way, and then I said, well, let's go try and win this thing.
Sounds
And,
good.
and then I went into that mode. So,
When exactly the same. I went to the Armadillo tournament as a warm up for the Pro Am. I wasn't able to make it down to Florida, but I kind of took on the same. Actually, it was more so to prepare for the preliminary thing. I don't think anything could prepare you for the lights and the ESPN experience. So you go into that room and it's kind of intimidating.
yeah.
So you've got a really cool starting from the floor to the boards. Everything is blacked out behind your boards. All you see is those two targets there. You've got a gantry above you with lights that make it look like a German, EDM disco party. And then all of a sudden it starts blowing cryo from the two sides of the targets, and there's a guy in a turkey suit, and with awesome energy, and producers with headsets, and you're just like, what have I gotten myself into today? And it was a super unique experience. That's when you feel like you want to throw up. That's when it hit me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was. I got to see it as a spectator, twice, because I went to the U.S. Open last year, and got to watch the ESPN, taping, and then Worlds, literally a year prior in December in the exact same spot in the exact same room. So I kind of had, a sense of what it was going to look like, but of course, throwing in it and sitting in the stands are two very different things.
Sure.
That pressure as soon as you walk out there. As a matter of fact, you and I were walking out there. We were one of the first two that went out there and started walking around the space. And it sounds like you and I had similar experiences, at least in our heads. And we're walking around there going, "Oh man, this is real all of a sudden." So
yeah, I mean, you're gonna throw the way you throw, but you don't. In my mind. My goal was just to get to the ESPN round, and I woke up and I was like, might as well try to win this thing, just like you. My mindset all right, let's talk about our first matches in the semifinals. So I went up against Matt Sheep Toast. Everybody just knows him as Sheep Toast. He's a very animated thrower. He's got a high energy. He's a very good thrower. He's got kind of this loping, kind of leaping throwing style. And when he finishes his throw, he's pretty animated. Really good energy for TV. I appreciated throwing against him. And my style, actually, I found that slowing things down and taking the Brian Cox approach, in deliberately walking to the board and trying to keep your heart rate down as much as possible. Now, I heard people shouting during my match with Sheep Toast, check out that swagger, Brian Cox swagger. And during one retrieval of my axe, I did the Brian Cox thing. And I think I offended Sheep Toast. So if you watch this, it wasn't an offensive thing. I wasn't taunting you or anything like that. I was just playing to those knuckleheads in the crowd that wanted me to do the Brian Cox swagger thing, because he was like, it's not over yet. And I was like, oh yeah, I know it's not over. So, and then I had to get my head back in the game. One of the things that I did not expect is you've got this large digital screen over the targets, and if you both call kill shots, all of a sudden it's like disco mode activated, and all these the cryo goes off and the thing goes real bright, and then the lights blast you in the eyes, and that kind of took me for a loop there, or threw me for a loop there, because I wasn't expecting that. Not only are you worried about that thrower's anxiety, where you're like, I don't want to be a choke artist on TV, but at the same time, you're dealing with all of these other elements. I don't know if you experienced that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was very fortunate because I had a couple of people proactively come up to me and tell me about throwing on that stage. You know, people like Dylan Teets, Mark Tishko, were two in particular, and then I remember talking to Lucas a little bit as well. And they all three consistently warned me about the exact same thing: the lights.
Mm,
Don't look off up and into the angles because there's lights, and when you know you're going to go up, don't look at that billboard above the targets because you'll get blinded. And
sure.
so I was very fortunate that I never had that happen to me because they all three of them, really overemphasized. In fact, that was really mostly the only feedback they had was be mindful of the lights.
Yeah, I learned pretty quick, and then I started employing the call it kill shot. Close the eyes and look down. Ah, man.
Yeah.
So your semifinals match was against Keen, and what? How did he take it? Like,
Yeah. So, somebody I'd never met before. I literally met him, that day of on Sunday, maybe an hour before we threw. I walked up to him and introduced myself, and then we were in the practice room a little bit and chatted briefly, very briefly, in the practice room. And so we really had not interacted very much, before we threw. And so I didn't know much about him. I mean, I very purposely didn't look up sheet toast or because I didn't know the night before who I was going to throw against. And I didn't look up any stats or anything. I just wanted to kind of go into the experience and enjoy it until that Sunday morning when I was okay. Now maybe I should try and go win this thing. But no, he was very polite, respectful. He was. I came to find out after that, he was the least tenured thrower of all four of us.
well, okay,
And so the experience was probably a little bit different for him, not having a lot of tournament experience before. But we went the distance, right? So
sure did.
he threw well. I mean, obviously he was there, so he threw well enough to get there, and he threw well enough to, only within a shot or two of winning, and putting me in the benches, So,
Sure.
yeah, no, it was a good experience. He's a big guy, and looked kind of intimidating.
Yeah. He's pretty super. He's imposing, and he really embraces that. He looks like a Viking, man. He looks like a Viking, and so he's going to be on a Wheaties box eventually for the sport of backstory. The guy really looks the part.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, the cover is in the book because you start talking to him and he's really a nice guy.
Yeah, super nice guy.
Really nice guy. Was really appreciative of being there. Very humble, and I'm glad I got to meet him and got to throw against him. So.
Okay, and then so we get to throw against these guys. We win our matches, and now that a new layer of anxiety washes upon you. Crap, we got to do this again. I made the finals. I know I'm going up against Erik Rimblas, and this is anybody's game. I'm happy to be here, and I want people to watch the ESPN airing of this because I had several people. I mean, everybody knows the outcome that you took it, but I don't think they understand the level of it came down to it, man. As people came to me and said that might be the most exciting match of axe throwing that I've witnessed, which is a huge compliment. And our match was great for TV. It was made for TV, and I absolutely love the fact that it was. So, did you get similar feedback?
Oh, absolutely. There was I had several people like right in that moment, and then of course later that night and even since then that said that was some of the most fun axe throwing they've seen because it partially because we weren't perfect, right? But there was also, I mean, either one of us could have won. I mean, it came down to one shot at the very end, and it was a couple of millimeters, right? I mean, and it was exciting. We were both in it to win it, and it went the distance. And yeah, I had the exact same comments made to me that, hey, that was the most exciting finals I've ever seen for one of these events. Sometimes those finals are anticlimactic, because they're so close, and they're so near perfect, that it's just a little slip up here and there, where ours had character. All
That's
three games.
exactly
I
it.
mean,
Ours
yeah,
ours definitely had character.
yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that too. That's uh, I wouldn't other than the outcome, I wouldn't change a thing. All right, we're gonna switch topics, and then we're gonna move over into in the comment section. Uh, so uh, so Pro Am is over. Pro Am World Champion bids were issued. So anybody that was an amateur that finished top two in each of those four brackets, so 8 bids were issued for finishing up in the Pro Am. Even though I do believe that you and I made pro status in summer. After summer, did you have the same thing happen to you?
Yeah, I made so it would have been back-to-back pro statuses for me. So yeah, summer and then fall.
And I appreciate that there is somebody in the community on Facebook that puts out a world's bid projection. I think her name is Becca Thorgensen. And the world bid projection is out. Obviously, it's not official, but it's going to be pretty close because it's just based on statistics. And when it came down to was, if you threw a 57 or better average, then you got a world bid. So that's as we watched world bids from past years to this year, you could see the vast improvement in the way people, uh, you know, started hitting 1.5 inch targets, if you will.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I remember. I mean, just a year ago, you could qualify for pro with, call it a high 54, maybe a low 55, and
Mm-hmm.
that bar moved by 2 full points.
Yep.
Within one year, and then the pro bids, all 4 seasons, the pro bids were crazy tight. I mean, the ranges in between the folks that got one and didn't get one. I mean, it has just gotten so competitive, and the scores have just gone. They're climbing. I mean, obviously, it's all going to change here next year, but it's pretty nuts to have watched it. So it's and you're kind of hanging on for dear life, right? As we were practicing for the pro am, and our scores, both yours and mine, and several others, started climbing. You're still struggling to get to those numbers where with a 57 and a half last year, we would have been in the top 20.
Sure.
You know, I mean,
Yep.
it was, I think I ended up 55th, uh,
Right.
with a 57.4 or something like that, which is just shows you how good throwers have gotten. So
Well, you had mentioned, preparing for the pro am, and so I think I'm not going to read off like who caught the world bids because they're unofficial. Perhaps in a future podcast, when WATL puts out, who got those last bids and made pro in the fall, we'll do a listing of those. But these are unofficial. If you want to check them out, find the post that Becca makes on the World Axe Throwing League discussion group. But since you had mentioned about preparation for the Pro-Am, it brings me to our favorite segment called In the Comment Section. And the comment section is directly related to this topic, and we're going to talk about that now. In the comments section today, we're going to talk about this particular comment that started just an absolute treasure trove of. I'm putting it up on the screen here. It was having a great time at the 2023 World Axe Throwing League USA Pro-Am. Congratulations to all the pros that won in the amateur division. And that was a funny comment. Actually, I appreciate and see the humor in that because, yeah, well, a few of us were pros when we threw in the Pro-Am. But I suppose, I think even the poster of the comment knew that uh, the the qualifications for the Pro-Am came out after winter and spring. And so if you were, do you remember what the cutoff was? It was right around like 55.
55.21, if I remember. So,
Right. And I'm pretty sure that my average at that time for both winter and spring were right around a 55 point, no, 50. I was a 54 in winter, 54 something. And I think I was like a 55.0 something in spring. So, and I threw like it. That's what I was. I mean, I was hoping to go 50% or better on my kill shots during league or at a marathon league or something like that. And, that I knew what I was. I was I was a good amateur. I was a good amateur in winter and spring. And, and then what winds up happening is WATL releases, the qualifications for Pro-Am, who's a pro, who's an am. And if your name was on the list as an AM, then feel free to register for this event. And I'm assuming that's what you did.
yeah, absolutely. I remember when it came out. I combed through the list, and I was there, and I registered immediately.
You
So
were on top. You were the number one. Uh, you were basically the cutoff.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I finished with a 55.18 out of the 55.21. So in terms of the eligibility list, I was the name at the top of the list. Yes,
And
which,
I was the number two on the top of the on that list. So
okay, I don't know about you, but I caught a lot of flack from my venue mates for that. But yeah, I mean that was the cutoff, and I remember even sending a note because by the time that I signed up, I was tracking towards pro. Not I wasn't for sure going to get it, but I was at least moving. I'm like, hey, just want to be really clear. Is this still good? Yep, all good. You're on the list, then feel free to sign up. And so I did.
yeah. So I think the difference between I was tracking for actually I wasn't even tracking for pro. I wasn't really tracking for pro in summer yet until like basically a miracle marathon league that I had. Sometimes you just throw really good one day, and that day happened to be a marathon league where I threw a huge average. I think it was a 58.25. For me,
Wow,
that's fantastic. So,
that's awesome.
but it was a great day, and since then, my average is below that, but still respectable. But I will tell you that, and you and I already talked about it, but for the listeners, I'm all about practical goal setting. That's kind of the thing that I'm into. Practical goal setting, I believe, is necessary for keeping yourself mentally and emotionally sharp. So you can't you can't say, "Hey, I'm gonna win the world championships this year." That's not practical. It's not even true. But if you're selected for the Pro-Am or eligible for it, and you're like, hey, I'm going to be throwing against people that are right around my skill set, I do have a shot at, what is your goal? Mine was to make the ESPN round. That's what I communicated to my sponsors. I said, I've got a good shot at making the ESPN round. And because I had the pressure of those sponsors behind me, then I set that practical goal. And what does that mean? That means that I'm going to be in my venue throwing more than I ever have before in order to improve my average. And from the time that they announced who was eligible to my sign up, from then on, I was spending, I was putting in the work, and putting in the work improved my average. It was basically more axes equal better scores. And I'm assuming that you did the same thing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely the same thing. It was so the minute that I knew I was in it, and that it was okay that I was in it and all that stuff. I immediately switched from throwing, a couple of days a week, maybe another, one practice in there, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. I mean, minimum 4, many weeks 5, and lots of weeks 6.
Do you have
You
a
know,
home target?
I do have a home target. I'll be honest, I don't use that much, but anymore. So I was throwing at Society, and then there's a venue here in town in Miami. I live about an hour away from Society, from Axe Throwing Society, and so it's a long haul to get there, an hour each way. But I was doing it, 4 or 5 days a week, and then catching, probably 2 to 3 days a month, so every other week or almost every week at Axe Habits, which is the venue here in Miami. They don't do a lot of competitive stuff, but they are a WATL affiliate, and they use WATL boards, WATL targets, and so with all the regulation, links, distances, and such. So it's a great practice venue for me. And so I would go in there either by myself or maybe with one other person and just throw for 2 hours. But yeah, 4 or 5 days a week, sometimes 6. And I shifted, other than a marathon, a hatchet marathon here and there. I switched to tournament style throwing, which is go up on 9 and 10, and just focus on kill shots, because at the end of the day, tournaments come down to kill shots. And so those are the two things I did. I upped my frequency significantly to as many days as I can get away with, honestly, with my family and other responsibilities. And then I switched to tournament style throwing, almost the entire distance of the time. My very last marathon, I did manage my kill shots to 29 kill shots, for the pro league bid, but otherwise everything else I did was I just went up, tournament style throwing. So
That's exactly what I did too. I increased the frequency in which I got into. Well, obviously, I have a venue here, that I'm here every day. But usually, what I would do is I would just, yeah, I'd come in, I'd throw for 30 minutes, and then get to the paperwork and the stuff, and then when the staff would get in, we'd throw a couple practice games, and that was it. I increased the frequency. I was putting in 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, except for Sunday. So that was basically my regiment. I would put together, imagine, we said this during the ESPN interview. You put together imaginary games in your head, and he's going up. I gotta go up. You put together, and I'm not gonna lie, Erik Rimblas was in that rotation where I was like, oh, Eric's going up. So you do that, and now Mark Tishko, M&M. They even have a simulator to not have to be so imaginary, so I don't have to seem like a lunatic. You can actually pick up their app, and it'll you'll be playing a notional person and stuff like that in order to make you make decisions during your axe throwing game, which is very cool. But yeah, these are the ways that I prepared, and it paid off, I think. So that's that's the take that I'm putting out there.
yeah.
I'm proud of you. You put in the work. I feel like I put in the work. I'm not saying that others didn't put in the work, but whatever our methods were, it got us to a place where we conquered our short term or practical goals, and you know what? That feels real good.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, it's very fulfilling, to set a target. I had the same target as you, by the way, just to get on ESPN. It was not so much about the sponsors, more honestly, I wanted my kids to see me on ESPN. I mean, that was kind of the thing in my head,
Ah,
and and representing the venue, but a lot of it was for my kids, because I thought it'd be cool if they saw their dad throwing on ESPN, and I'm sure a lot of people put a lot of work in. I think the posts and the comments and kind of the sentiment was ultimately more aimed at the structure of the pro-am. Waddle put out a statement. I think it was yesterday, maybe day before, really kind of doubling down on their position on the pro-am, which I respect. They have, at the end of the day, an organizational responsibility, and they can't change things, just a couple weeks out. I mean, they got to plan things in advance and have structure, and that's the structure they're choosing to use, and I think it's great. When you qualify, and then you have the opportunity to do whatever you need to do in order to put yourself in a position to win, which clearly you and I did that. Many other people did that as well. But it's axe throwing. It's hits and misses, right? So you can prepare until the day is long. Look at the pro piece. The pro tournament. Two folks ended up 1 and 2 that had never been in that position before. So does that mean that all those really really good throwers that are in those positions all the time, weren't doing what they would be doing and didn't make? No, they just didn't throw as good as that person in that particular match, and that's how it goes, right? So no, I think it's been overwhelmingly supportive. A couple of comments out there, more for humor than anything else, honestly.
Yeah.
And are people calling for Waddle to? Did they call for Waddle to look at the structure of it and see if there was a change to be made? Yeah, I believe that's ultimately what they were doing. And then, as of the post that Waddle put out, I believe yesterday, they're going to stick to it. So now, again, we'll see how it goes this year with new rules, and I think there'll be less kind of commingling of advanced and amateur, and because of the way the structure will be next year. And so I think it's kind of a moot point, honestly. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I felt nothing but support and congratulations, and I'm sure you got the same thing. So
I did. Well, I think that wraps it up, Erik. I am so happy that you were able to, we could go through this cool event that we were a part of together and kind of do a rehashing of that. And I think those that didn't attend the Pro-Am will have a better idea of what that was like. And I'm really proud of you and your accomplishments, and I'm so happy that you were able to join us today. So thank you so much for being able to take the time to spend some time with the Axe Life.
Yeah, right on. And listen, thanks for the invite. And same thing. Proud of where you got. I mean, it was really great hearing the details of what you did. I mean, 2 hours a day and everything. So just congratulations on achieving your goal and then some. Right, you made it
Yep.
all the way to the finals, and we were one throw away, man. It was phenomenal. And again, I said at the beginning, I'll say it again. I was really glad it was you and I, honestly.
Me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erik. That is the wrap up of the Axe Life podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in. You can check us out. We are now posting all of these in audio form on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere that you like to listen to your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, trying to get it up to Rumble. So we're going to try to keep on schedule in the future. And we really appreciate you tuning in. And this is where you can find that real Axe talk. And we'll see you next time.